Australians have always been suspicious of Australia's political class, and for good reason. Scandal after scandal have beset politicians for decades. Scandals and crimes that would have seen the average everyday Australian face jail time. It's hard for Australians not to hold politicians in contempt and distrust, especially lately. And this week's revelations of former PM Scott Morrison's secret swearing in to five portfolios over the top of his appointed ministers during the pandemic smacks of party political insurrection. And Morrison's desire to be a one-man government, unbeknown to all Australians, including his own party in Parliament, Australia was a banana republic in the hands of a megalomaniac and dictator. And facilitating the creation of Australia as a banana republic was the Governor-General, David Hurley. So it's a huge understatement to say the problem with Morrison's secret appointments was the secrecy. But amid the beginning of the pandemic, Morrison should have announced in April 2020 why he chose to shadow Greg Hunt and Matthias Cormann. The 2015 Biosecurity Act, which the pandemic was declared in Australia, gave Hunt more powers than the PM himself. It meant the power of how the country operated under a pandemic was Hunt's and not the PM's. But that was a position Morrison obviously couldn't accept. He saw that as objectionable. And then Finance Minister Matthias Cormann was helping keep the JobKeeper life support flowing to the lockdown economy. Morrison inevitably succumbed to the temptation to extend his covertly acquired power. It was a reinforcement of what is obviously Morrison's flawed personality. Simply, Morrison is a political control freak, viewing himself as a one-man band at a time when there were no vaccines. It was incumbent on Morrison to explain that he needed to expand his ministerial authority. However, that taboo word honesty in politics was supplanted by deceit and secrecy. So we need to ask, why did Morrison decide not to come clean and tell his party and Australia of what amounts to be a takeover of the government? There's none. It was Morrison's paranoia and total quest for control that drove his secrecy. It was Morrison's delusional belief that he wanted to be seen as Australia's saviour, the man that rescued the nation from a deadly pandemic, which in effect has proven to be not so deadly at all. Morrison's one-man government approach should have been seen not only as overreach, but an abuse of power. He adopted an approach to treat Australians and his party as mugs. It was a betrayal of trust, and Morrison's secrecy is a reinforcement of his dodgy persona. There's a reason why Australians had very little trust or viewed him with disdain. And because of that disdain, he was rightfully thrown out of office. The loss of the federal election is a reinforcement of that belief. Morrison's behaviour was an attack mounted against his own party and every single Australian. And even though Morrison's actions weren't illegal, it exposes the lack of mechanisms to ensure the public knows who actually holds executive power. The right to know who or where the executive power resides with is vital. But at this point, Australians don't. And what Morrison has done has opened a door to the manipulation of Australia's political system and left it ajar for future potential exploitation. That door must be closed, and closed quickly. As a nation, we cannot leave ourselves open to political exploitation from men and women seeking dominance of rule and power. Unfortunately, Morrison saw himself as the supreme ruler, and every Australian should make sure we don't allow this great country of ours to fall into the hands of delusional megalomaniacs. And while this sad state of affairs was aided and perpetrated under the veil of secrecy, look what's also happened in plain sight in Victoria.